GDP figures, which show that the economy has grown by 0.8% in the second quarter of 2025, an improvement from the 0.1% growth in the first quarter. The 0.8% GDP growth reflects a broad-based recovery across key sectors. 8 industries recorded growth in their second quarter, with key sectors like manufacturing, mining, and trade returning to the growth territory. A rising household consumption also reflects an improvement in disposable income, and this is confirmed through improved reported inflation figures. Cabinet further welcomed Fitch's decision to affirm South Africa's long-term foreign and local currency debt ratings and maintain the stable outlook. The Fitch ratings are supported by a favorable government debt structure that is mostly local currency denominated, with long-term maturities and strong institutions and a credible monetary policy framework. According to Fitch, the progress being made under the government's Operation Vulindlela Phase 2 reforms focused on fixing network infrastructures, which are electricity, logistics, and water, have alleviated load shedding and ended the decline in freight volume transported, contributing to Fitch's focus of a modest increase in real GDP growth. The Fitch affirmation signals continued investor confidence in the country's fiscal management and institutional strength. On the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative, Cabinet welcomed the latest quarterly progress report on the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative for April to June 2025, which highlighted significant strides in creating pathways to earning for young South Africans. More than 5.64 million young people registered on the National Pathway Management Network, surpassing the initial target of 5 million. So we have exceeded that by 640,000 young people registered. Over 1.91 million young people have accessed temporary earning opportunities, reflecting government's sustained efforts to tackle youth unemployment are gaining traction. In this quarter alone, more than 234,000 opportunities were accessed by young people through the National Pathway Management Network. These include work experiences, skills development programs, and income-generating opportunities that are equipping young people to transition into the labor market. Cabinet expressed appreciation to all partners for their continued contributions and reaffirms Cabinet's commitment to tackling youth unemployment through innovative and scalable interventions. On international relations, the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, commonly known in South Africa as UNGA, is the UNGA 80 this year. South Africa will participate in the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, or UNGA 80, which will convene under the theme Better Together, 80 Years and More for Peace, Development and Human Rights, from the 23rd to the 29th of September 2025 in New York, in the USA. President Ramaphosa will lead the South African delegation. South Africa will use this platform to reinforce a commitment to global multilateralism, human rights for all, sustainable development as a collective responsibility, and peaceful resolution of conflicts, with South Africa's special emphasis on the conflicts in the Eastern DRC, the two Sudans, and Palestine, with Russia and Ukraine as another area of focus. In addition, South Africa will use the UNGA 80 to promote South Africa's G20 presidency agenda. The President will hold bilateral meetings with several of his counterparts and meet with CEOs of major international companies. Ministers Tau and Lamula have traveled ahead to engage on discussions with the U.S. on the South Africa-U.S. trade deal and the UN special sessions, respectively. Other ministers in the delegation will report their engagements during their UNGA stay. On justice, crime, and crime prevention, the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, as I've already indicated, Cabinet welcomed the commencement of the hearings of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into criminality, political interference, and corruption in the criminal justice system, commonly known as the Madlanga Commission. Cabinet calls on anyone who may have information that could assist the work of the Commission to make contact via Madlanga Commission at behonest.co.za or 0800 111 369, the number 0800 111 369. On the Kampepe Commission, Cabinet welcomed the commencement of the Kampepe Commission on Truth and Reconciliation Commission matters. The Commission has already held meetings with complainants and representatives of government. On governance, the National Executive meeting with the Northwest Provincial Executive Council, Cabinet welcomed the outcomes of the meeting between the National Executive with the Provincial Executive Council of the Northwest. This is the seventh such engagement between National Executive and Provincial Executive Councils, aimed at strengthening intergovernmental coordination and improving service delivery in line with the priorities of the 7th administration. This meeting underscored a renewed commitment to improving service delivery in the province. It affirmed the close cooperation across spheres of government to deliver critical infrastructure such as the rebuilding of roads, provision of water infrastructure, and energy availability for powering the province's industrial ambitions. The meeting committed to work closely with the Northwest Provincial Government to ensure the resolution of challenges currently plaguing municipalities in that province. Cabinet decisions: the draft National Entrepreneurship Strategy. Cabinet approved the publication of the draft National Entrepreneurship Strategy and Implementation Plan for a public comment. The strategy aims to promote participation of young people and historically disadvantaged businesses in the economy by incentivizing entrepreneurship and ensuring sustainability of micro, small, and medium enterprises. Furthermore, the National Entrepreneurship Strategy makes proposals on how to promote the culture of entrepreneurship in South Africa by providing an enabling environment for entrepreneurial activity, as well as creating a supportive environment for micro, small, medium enterprises to be sustainable and thrive. This will be achieved by focusing on 5 key critical pillars of the strategy, which are enhancing entrepreneurship education and skills development, 2, facilitating technology exchange and innovation, improving access to finance and markets, optimizing the business regulatory environment, and promoting awareness and networking. Overall, the strategy aims to increase formal economic participation, address high youth unemployment, and promoting youth entrepreneurship, and providing strategic direction and roadmap that integrate the work of other key departments and strategic partners. In addition, the strategy aims to coordinate the ecosystem for entrepreneurship development in the country, including recommendations for entrepreneurship to be incorporated into the curricula of the Departments of Basic and Higher Education as a viable career option. And we are truly inviting small businesses and medium businesses to comment and make suggestions and proposals in the National Entrepreneurship Strategy so that we can improve the support that is given to small businesses, because all of us are aware that thriving economies that are creating jobs, it is the small business sector that creates more jobs than government and also big business. On bills, the National Economic Development and Labour Council Bill, Cabinet approved for public comments the draft National Economic Development and Labour Council Bill 2025. The draft bill will repeal the NEDLAC Act of 1994 and proposes alignment of NEDLAC's institutional arrangements to change in the constitutional legal order that have occurred since 1994. The draft bill also provides for the minister to make regulations on admission and membership threshold through a process that includes consultation and public admissions, making the system more transparent. On appointments, all appointments are subject to verification of qualifications and relevant security clearances. One is the appointment of Ms. Udisha Chaturi as the chairperson of the Patent Examination Board. 2 is the extension of contract for the Director General of the Department of Basic Education, Mr. Hubert Matanzima Mweli. And also Cabinet concurred to the filling of vacancies on the South African National Biodiversity Institute Board as follows: Dr. Mampaka Tau, who as the chairperson, Professor Edward Nesamvuni, Mr. Eugene Vincent Yoste, Ms. Shamala Naidu, Ms. Ayanda Ntanda, Ms. Eva Dorothy Khoza, Dr. Andrew Kickwood-Meir, and Ms. Gertrude Bulelwa Koyani, and Advocate Candice Christie Slam. Also, Cabinet concurred to the filling of vacancies on the South African National Parks Board as follows: Ms. Beryl Ferguson as the interim chairperson, Mr. Riwani Matsila, Ms. Hurisani Mushiana, Dr. Sibongile Linet Masuku, Ms. Nozipho Rachel Ngele, Mr. Muhema Mongane, Advocate Catherine Warburton, Mr. Thomas Ignatius Bauer, Mr. Raymond Mabue, Mr. Ashley Lachu, and Mr. Huizimang Matebula. Upcoming events: honoring ex-political prisoners. The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, in partnership with the Association of Ex-Political Prisoners and the Robben Island Museum, will host a reunion of ex-political prisoners on the 27th of September 2025 in Robben Island. The gathering pays tribute to over 1,700 political prisoners who were held in Robben Island and other facilities across the country. The reunion is part of preserving the history of the struggle for freedom and remembering that the freedom that South Africans enjoy today was not for free. There are men and women who sacrificed their freedom for South Africa to be free. The reunion will also include veterans from Namibia, Lesotho, and Botswana, reflecting the interlinks in the Southern African liberation struggle against colonialization. On the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster Community Outreach Program, the JCPS cluster is hosting today a community outreach program at the 2010 Mthatha Stadium in Mthatha, Eastern Cape, as part of the Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy. The outreach is intended to forge stronger partnerships and drive lasting community-driven solutions to create safer and more resilient communities, with a particular focus on Mthatha, which has been identified as a crime hotspot. On the G20 Leaders Summit preparatory meetings, the following G20 Summit preparatory meetings were held over the past few weeks. One is the third Tourism Working Group meeting, which was held on the 11th of September 2025 in Mpumalanga, which consolidated inputs and deliverables in preparation for the G20 Tourism Ministers meeting, which took place on the 12th of September 2025. The G20 Tourism Ministers meeting, as I've already indicated, finalized the action plan that is poised to drive sustainable tourism development among the G20 member countries. The last meeting was the third Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion meeting, which took place from the 11th to the 12th of September in the Western Cape, which was set to develop practical, innovative, and inclusive solutions to ensure that growth includes everyone and leaves no one behind. There was also the cities of Johannesburg and Tshwane, who co-hosted the Urban 20, a mayoral summit from the 12th to the 14th of September 2025 in Johannesburg, and it brought together mayors from G20 cities to collectively address pressing urban challenges while ensuring that the priorities of cities are elevated within the G20 agenda. And lastly, the Global SME Finance Forum, which took place from the 15th to the 17th of September in Gauteng, which brought together 1,200 participants from over 60 countries and 240 financial institutions. As an official side event of the G20 South African Presidency, the forum explored innovative financing mechanisms, including blended finance structures and guarantee programs that could unlock previously inaccessible capital for local businesses. On messages, our condolences, Cabinet expressed condolences to the friends and families of the people and government of Qatar on the loss of life following the unprovoked attack carried out by the Israeli Defense Force in Doha on a civilian building in a residential area. We hope that Qatar will not deter from their mediation role in the Palestine-Israel conflict. Former Springboks fullback Bevan Fortuin, who played 2 tests for the Springboks against Ireland in Dublin in 2006 and against Australia in Sydney in 2007. Former Springboks flanker Jean Boland Kusie, who played for the Springboks between 1974 and 1976. He was also a renowned winemaker in the Stellenbosch area, where he transformed Wesenhof vineyard into a world-class winery. To the family and friends of the 4 dancers from the renowned Maskandi artist Swanelo Hlongwane's group, who died in a car crash while traveling from a performance in Bergville to Johannesburg. Cabinet extended its congratulations to the Springboks for their record 43-10 win against New Zealand to retain the Freedom Cup during the Castle Lager Rugby Championship. To Mr. Alan Hatley for winning the Mountain Bike World Championships in Valais, Switzerland, and for retaining the title for the second year in a row. To the golfer Retief Hossain on winning the Stanford International by 2 shots at Minha Country Club in South Dakota. The win secured Retief Hossain his 4th career PGA Tour Championships. Team South Africa made history at the 2025 World Athletics Championship in Tokyo by having 2 sprinters in the men's 100 meters final for the first time, with Gift Luatlela finishing 5th and in 9.95 seconds and Akani Simbine 7th in 10.04 seconds. That race was just phenomenal. But the fact that 2 of us were there in that lineup, it shows that we are really leading phenomenal. We are waiting for the 400 meters outcome today. South African singer Taylor Lauren Sitha, popularly known as Tyler, who won the Best Afrobeats Award at the 2025 MTV Video Music Awards for her hit single Push to Start. Onale Rona Tsiane and Musa Letswalo, known as the T Sisters, for representing the country at the Teen Entrepreneurship World Cup 2025, where they received 2 awards for advancing United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, ending SDG 1, ending poverty in all its forms everywhere, and SDG 10, reduced inequalities. To the South African National Committee on Irrigation and Drainage team, which is chaired by Professor Sylvester Mpandedi, for being awarded with 4 World Heritage Irrigation Structures awards at the 4th World Irrigation Forum. This award ceremony took place on the 7th of September at Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Professor Mpandedi is a University of Venda alumnus and adjunct professor at the University of Venda. Recipients of the various categories of the 2025 South African Women in Science Award, SAWISA, Professors Brenda Morrow, Lucy Muleleki, and Alison September in the Natural Engineering Sciences category, Professor Jill Hansen-Hancock, Sorinja Nada, and Shanaz Matthews in the Humanities and Social Sciences category, Professor Caroline McKenney and Zilungile Mkhize Kwichana for their success in promoting public engagement with research. Professor Jill Farrant, who received the Lifetime Achievement Award for her pioneering work on drought-resistant crops in the National Research Foundation Awards, and Professor Lisa Kotze, who received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the National Science and Technology Forum South 32 Awards for her work in plant health and food safety. We are saved with our women leading in the science field and focusing on food security and matters that will transform the nation. Lastly, we want to call upon students who are in matric and those who are institutions of higher learning to apply for NEPSA's support. The applications open from the 15th of September to the 20th. They close on the 15th of November. We request that students and learners should not be late. Parents, neighbors, and communities who are listening to this call, we want you to urge the youngsters and learners and students to apply for support so that they can advance their education, whether at our universities or at our TVET colleges. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for the brief statement. Indeed, we are a sporting nation, but also thank you very much for acknowledging the ongoing commission that has attracted the attention of all South Africans. We will then open the session for questions. I will start in the press room. The drill is the same. You will raise your hand, you'll identify yourself, and there is a note there, a red one that you'll press, and then from there on we'll check online questions. Maybe let me start. You are noted in that order.
Hi, good afternoon, Minister. Kylie Kumala here from SABC. So, Minister, you spoke about the UN General Assembly session in the United States of America, and we know that South Africa and the US, there's been a lot happening in terms of throwing the frosty ties. So, are you anticipating that during the course of the global issues, South Africa and the US will have an opportunity, especially where the foreign affairs ministers would meet on the sidelines as part of the G20 session. But a quick one as well, Minister, on South Africa's position for settling the conflict. We've just seen the images of the DRC President Tshisekedi meeting with President Ramaphosa, and we know South Africa's been really involved in trying to make sure that there is a long-lasting peace in the DRC. Do you just mind to share with us more granular details in terms of this particular meeting? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaya.
Xavier Bapu, independent. Minister, it's been a very uplifting economic and sports-related post-briefing. But to ask something related to Cabinet, I know President Ramaphosa has said that he's handed over the national dialogue, but Deputy President Paul Mashatile is in charge of the Interministerial Response Committee to the national dialogue. We haven't heard anything from the national dialogue in terms of the steering committee being appointed or any updates since the first sitting. Has the, ministerial committee addressed any of the issues that were raised at the first sitting? And then just a follow-up on Leela's question. In terms of our US and South African relations, where DIRCO is responsible for appointing the next ambassador to the US, do we have any updates on that from DIRCO? Thank you.
Thank you very much. On that note, maybe let me check Peli or Neil if we have any questions online.
There are no questions as yet.
Thank you very much. Minister, it appears the statement was fully explained. You might also take the liberty, after you have responded to the questions, if there are no follow-ups, to then adjourn the session. Thank you.
Thank you. I forgot to acknowledge my Deputy Minister for the moral support. We've been on another job, and he said, Minister, I'm going to accompany you to the briefing. He thought it was going to be super hectic. Let me start with the easy question on whether our foreign minister will meet with the minister of the U.S. on the sidelines of the foreign ministers meeting. As indicated in the statement, we are meeting with the U.S. There's a team that is led by the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Minister Tau, but it is outside of him. There's a special envoy of the president, who's a special advisor of the president, Mr. Dr. Alistair Reuters, who has been in the U.S. and he has remained there. He was working with the DG of DTSC, and they've been meeting with the the U.S. Trade Council to finalize the deal, because what may be in between the cabinet briefings, we had proposed a deal with the U.S. They responded by giving us their counter proposal, so we then sent a team to engage on the details of what the U.S. has proposed, because even in the U.S. proposal, there's an acknowledgement that there must be discussions and negotiations. And it's for that reason that Minister Tau then left in advance to go and have those discussions. Minister Lamula has always been engaging his counterpart on opening the pathways. But what is fundamental is that the U.S. and South Africa are continuing to engage on the proposals on the table so that we can find a common ground or mutual agreement on the proposals that have been put on the table. So we are there. And I must correct you. The appointment of ambassadors is not the responsibility of the Minister of DECO, it's the responsibility of the President. And as we have indicated, the President will make the announcement at the right times. But as of current, we've got enough engagements with the U.S. that we've got enough boots on the ground that we're required to do, as I've just indicated in terms of the delegation. I can't remember when last was Mr. Reuters back in the country. I was just happy yesterday when I saw the DG of DTIC that he's back and for consultation, but given that his minister also left day before yesterday on the 16th for the US, it means there's a traction that needs ministerial decision-making powers. So we are continuing to engage with the US as we have indicated. And then you indicated, you also requested, you also asked the question, and I'll come back to the DRC question last. I see you are worried, Kailihle. Around the national dialogue, whether the steering committee appointment, you'll recall that at the last convention, there was a process agreed on how the steering committee will be composed and then appointed. And the appointment is not going to be done by government. The various sectors are going to agree on their own representation and finalize. I must indicate that there are sectors who have not yet found each other in terms of their own representation, and do not ask me to name them. It's not diplomatic to name you. It's like you are. So that work continues, but it hasn't stopped the team. Remember, there is the team that is supported by NEDLEC as the secretariat, the organizing team, which constitute of the stalwarts foundations, and the civil society in the main, that they've been working on a program to go into consultations that has to take place at the 13,400 wards across the country. And if you recall, at the national dialogue, there was a proposal that it should not only end at a wide level, there must be a consolidation at the district level and at the provincial level, so that we can give a provincial picture and a district picture to say what are South Africans saying. So it's not about government, it's about all of us. We should soon articulate the processes on behalf of the organizing committee, but you know they've got the capacity to also come and brief to say what is the way forward, when are the local consultations and local engagement starting, but and at the sectors, how they're going to drive the sectoral engagements at a local level as well. On the images of President Ramaphosa meeting with President Tshisekedi, we must indicate that South Africa, as we have indicated when SADC was pulling out from the Eastern DRC as part of the pullout of SAMI DRC, that South Africa's primary focus is that of making sure that there is lasting peace in the Eastern DRC and in the DRC in general. We have undertaken the responsibility to continue to coordinate peace efforts in that area, amongst other initiatives. I must indicate that President Ramaphosa has already met with former President Kabila of the DRC, and following that engagement, his meeting with President Tshisekedi, there will be other meetings with other role players. We are hoping and confident that there will be an opportunity to meet with the M23 also as part of making sure that the parties into the DRC can find each other. You'll recall the SADC decision was that even when SADC is removing its peacekeeping forces, the intention is to make sure that there is engagement by the Congolese themselves. They must talk to each other to find lasting peace in that area. So this is part of that process, and the role South Africa continues to play in facilitating peace. As indicated, that as we get to the UN and this focus on peaceful resolution of conflicts, South Africa cannot champion peaceful resolution of conflicts in other continents, whereas we have our own conflicts in our backyard. It is paramount for us to find a solution to the conflicts that are in their backyards. And top of mind in our country is the conflict in the Eastern DRC and also in the Sahel region. There are other conflicts, but those two, not Sahel region, the two Sudans, because what many of us are not aware is that the conflict in the two Sudan, is creating untold human difficulties, and we need to then bring the spotlight, or not only bring the spotlight, but also find the resolution of those conflicts. And also in the DRC, that if the DRC is not stable, the whole of the SADC region will remain unstable. And lastly, as I close, You don't want me to close? Okay, they're asking me not to close.
No, my apologies, Minister. As you were speaking, I think colleagues then started to post questions online. Let me request Penny to lead us with the questions online.
Thank you, Chair. I've got like 3 questions from online. The first question is from Baba Ndende from EWN. There are reports of 150 million budget shortfall for G20 Leaders Summit going out of Parliament. Can the Minister give assurance that the funding shortfalls won't affect our preparations? The second question is from Dennis Delford from Network 24. Are we close to a trade agreement with the US? And the last question is from Paul Bloomberg. When will South Africa make public its trade proposals to US? Will this be after Minister Stow's meeting? And will Mr. Jonas be part of the President's delegation? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think this one were the only questions that we have online. Then you will do the honors thereafter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The question is whether we'll make the trade proposals to the U.S. public. We have made the trade proposals to our trade proposals to the U.S. public in May already, and the U.S. has given us their proposals, and it's the negotiations are at a sensitive stage. So I allow the teams to negotiate, and then we can then, when there's progress, we'll outline on the progress. Minister Daumsho, when he returns, will then be able to update on the progress. The challenge is, if you are negotiating and you negotiate in the public platform, it doesn't show bona fides to the negotiation process, and it's not good diplomacy. Good diplomacy requires you to negotiate in good faith, and even the difficult ones will come out and say what is difficult if we are not reaching agreement. Are we reaching agreement? We are negotiating. If we reach agreement, we'll indicate. If we are not reaching agreement, we'll indicate. But I must indicate that the spirit of negotiations between the two parties, it's a good one. That's why we are able to exchange proposals and counter proposals to show that we've got a good rapport with each other, as we've always indicated. And there was a question of whether Mr. Jonas will be part of the President's delegation. The President is going to the UN General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly. We get delegations of government. We are not going to the President is not going, he's going to the United States, but not to a visit to the United States government. He's going to the UN General Assembly. So Mr. Jonas is not a United Nations General Assembly envoy. So I thought it's important to clarify that part. And then there was an issue around the shortfall, whether it will affect the G20 Leaders Summit. No, it won't. We remember we have come out and said our approach is that we are going to host the G20 that will represent not only South Africa, but also represent the African continent. Because the next session of the G20 that will come around in 20 years' time, it will be maybe with the AU then coming after. But this is our best shot as Africa to showcase our ability to host a platform of the nature of the G20, countries that continue a particular percentage of the wealth of the world. But we are saying it's not only about that, it's also putting the African agenda on the table, and the African agenda, it includes reforms in the global financial institutions, but also the funding mechanisms that are done by these very powerful countries, opening supply chains of these very big countries for Africa, but also Africa not as as an afterthought, but Africa as a major player. By 2030 we're going to be the leading population in the world. How does Africa use that and mobilize its buying power to advance its economic development, so that Africa can no longer be a dumping site for development? It can no longer be a playing field for conflict, where countries and governments who want to exploit our natural resources come and create conflicts within our country. So we've got an agenda that says, in light of the climate change, how do we make sure that Africa is not negatively affected by the effects of what the developed world have done and impose the consequences on us who have not contributed to polluting the world? How do we hold the developing world accountable, and how do they mitigate the consequences of their actions that are unfairly affecting Africa and the other developing countries? And so that's the agenda we are hosting, and we'll do justice to it. We are grateful to the partnership and sponsorship of business, and we are confident that we'll continue to find that partnership and sponsorship as we continue. But as I close, I want to wish the United Apostolic UACC, Yabo Miriri, who are having their annual conference in Jerere, Mauruma. We wish them well for this weekend's congregation, and is I think the third largest church in Southern Africa, and we are wishing them well in their conference. And as the congregants drive there, may they drive safely and keep safe, and may their prayer sessions reach the heavens. Thank you.
This then brings us to the end of this briefing, and it is adjourned. Let me also thank Jonathan and Pearl for the sign language interpretation. Thank you very much. The session is adjourned. Thank you very much. CIS. My name is William Baloy. We are going to have a post-cabinet briefing